ESOP transaction trends are actually fairly positive. And so when we're looking at least our own deal flow, and we talk to a lot of other advisors in the space, deal flow is consistent at least through 24 and 25 were strong years. The interesting thing about the ESOP is that we've talked a lot about the lending environment has an impact, and it does. But even if the lending environment isn't as robust, you can still get an ESOP transaction done because if the owner is willing to seller finance the transaction, you can still complete a deal, even if maybe the cash up front isn't there. And so we're just still seeing good volume across the board. I can say from a sector standpoint, it's still somewhat concentrated in some of the construction and contractor spaces, but it's kind of diversifying across all different industries. And again, it's going to kind of trend along some of the same things that the M&A space is looking at. They're going to be looking at companies that have, I would say, stable operations that can mitigate, again, any risk that's in the market. To the extent that you can do that, an ESOP transaction is going to be just as attractive from I would say, a valuation standpoint in terms of what an ESOP valuation can command. You will get a deal done if you exhibit some of those characteristics. But from a broader succession standpoint, I still think ESOPs are viewed as a great strategic alternative and to select, M&A processes. And I think it's one of those things that ESOPs continue to gain awareness as a different alternative. As someone that loves ESOPs as much as I do, I'm not a purist in the sense where I think every company should be. But I think if you're a business owner going through a planning process, I at least think you should take a look to see if it may fit your needs, because you may be surprised, and it does, because there's a lot of great things about the ESOP, everything from the employee ownership perspective, but you remain independent. And a lot of times ESOPs are used to kind of continue and perpetuate the business that you've built. And so there's a lot of things that are great just from a succession standpoint that make the ESOP more appealing to a M&A sale, particularly around some tax incentives and some other things.
Yeah, and I would say over the last year and continuing on to 2026, what's changed from a deal structure, and again, I'll speak from the trustee side, the diligence from the buy side has increased. It's been great for the last, again, 15 years. Things have changed a lot in the process that is undertaken on a deal itself. But there's been, again, the things we've been talking about, the trustees have been very interested in understanding: pricing, margin, future stress, where the manufacturing is coming from, how they can account for inflation across both input costs as well as people. And as I'm thinking about 2026, I've seen much the same. I would have loved to have said, that the 2025 is done and over with, but 2026 looks like much the same for us. We still are in the same position from a tariff standpoint. The uncertainty around the amount, the length, everything about them is still in question. And so I think what I see in 2026 is the same path that everyone was taking in 2025 is going to still hold at least for 2026. Continued increased scrutiny on profitability, on customers, on suppliers. The interest rate environment, I think, is still up in question, whether there's going to be a rate cut. It's going to hold steady. It's still, again, from what I've seen, there is no hard and fast rule that's in the marketplace right now for what expectations truly are for the interest rate. And so I see 2026 from an ESOP standpoint almost the same as 2025. I think people are more understanding of the uncertainty. They don't like it, but at least they're sort of at least prepared for more uncertainty rather than a complete flip that everyone saw, April of 2025. Now it's sort of in the back of their mind that this is the way business is going to be. It's going to be up in the air. I need to be agile and ready to move my business in any particular direction, but I still don't know what the direction that is right now. And so there's a lot of that focus on what can I do today to position ourselves for either direction the market may move.
And you also have just general demographics that favor business sale. I mean, as an aging population continues, these businesses, in some cases, have to move, and regardless of almost environment. And so, just we've always talked about that the silver tsunami, and that volume and that the cadence of transactions just continues. Greg, I think you make a point. You're almost certain with uncertainty, and I think a lot
Yeah.
of companies have sort of kind of just built that into their mindset and how they operate the company to be nimble, to be agile, and so they're able to, in any case, kind of maximize profit during a time where they maybe want to market the business.